I had no idea how many totally stupid financial designations exist in the financial advising industry. And I'm not one to normally publicly hate on things. Really, I'm only a hater in private, like towards my friends when it's funny. But someone pointed out to me just the sheer quantity of different letters that FINRA has sort of acknowledged on their website that financial advisors and wealth managers can pass tests in order to earn and add to their name. When you see a list that long, it just begs the question, does every one of these designations really need to be here? And the answer is definitely not. Some of them are totally ridiculous. After looking through that list, here are the top 10 stupidest financial designations out there. At number 10, we have something called the Certified ETF Advisor, or the CETA designation. On the surface, maybe this thing looks okay, especially to individuals out there who are not financial advisors who have read that investing in ETFs or similar passively managed index funds can be great investment options, which is totally true. ETFs can be sweet, right? But I was just curious on why we would have an ETF only designation when there are 10 or 15 or 20 different types of investment vehicles that you can choose to invest your money into. And then you quickly learn that this Certified ETF Advisor designation is issued by the ETF Institute. Wow, who would have guessed? Like many of the designations you'll see on this top 10 list, there are no prerequisites. It's an online self-study, single exam program. So to me, it really just looks like a way for this organization called the ETF Institute to try to grab a little bit of extra revenue from whatever advisors in the industry get duped into signing up for their certification that maybe gets marketed to the public, but really no one cares about at all. Number 9 on our list is a designation called the AA, which stands for the Affirming Advisor. Right away, the name looks bad. AA is, at least in the United States, a common acronym for Alcoholics Anonymous, which is a support group for alcoholics, and so it just makes no sense to see that as some letters after a financial advisor's name. And then when you look into what this Affirming Advisor designation says that it focuses on, it's probably unnecessary at the least. It's issued by the Financial Psychology Institute, and they say that the designation is about creating safe places for the LGBTQIA+ community and its allies to find affirming advisors who can work with those clients. Now, I don't mean to say that there's anything wrong with this community or the advisor servicing the community, and actually I would argue that there are some very helpful designations or at least subsectors in the financial planning space that can really help out planning for same-sex couples, which would be around domestic partnerships, because I think it's only like 15 countries around the world that approve same-sex marriage, and everywhere else you need to be aware of what types of planning tools are available to domestic partners. But to have a designation focused specifically on creating safe spaces, to me is just like, it's sort of ridiculous that this is its own thing, and in a certain sense it's like kind of like common sense. Like, of course you want to have a safe space type of relationship with your clients where you're both telling each other the truth. And I just see this AA designation as trying to, again, grab some cash from the growing trend of acceptance of the LGBTQIA+ community amongst financial advisors. There's probably absolutely no need for this to be its own thing. Next, we have the Certified IRA Services Professional, or CISP designation, issued by the American Bankers Association. Traditionally, banking means different things than IRAs, and especially managing IRAs for clients, so I don't really know why this association felt the need to launch a program studying servicing IRAs. But more importantly, I would argue that this designation sounds a little bit like if I went into a doctor's office and the doctor said, hey, by the way, I have a special designation in checking your heart rate and taking your blood pressure. It's like, I would be like, every doctor does that all the time, and servicing IRAs is just such a totally basic concept in the financial planning world. The fact that designation was created focused on it makes zero sense. Now, there are some financial advisors, wealth planners that don't deal with retirement accounts at all and instead only manage money for trusts or endowments or things like that. So I don't mean to say that every advisor does IRAs, I just mean that IRAs are very basic and you don't need a separate designation focusing on the servicing of those accounts. Number 6 on our list is the BCM designation, which is board certified in mutual funds. First, I asked myself, what board is doing this certification? At least with the 9 other sort of phony designations on this list, they don't claim to be some sort of a board certified organization, which to me, again, going back to the doctor example I just used, it sounds like they're trying to replicate the language used a lot in the medical community. But then similarly to number 10 or 9 on this list, the ETF advisor, it's pointless to have a designation that just says, oh, I'm certified in mutual funds. I mean, there are, again, 10, 15, 20 different types of investment vehicles that we could use as financial advisors, ETFs being one, mutual funds being one. There's no reason to have a designation focused on just one of those. And if there were, then we should have 10 or 15 different designations after our name focusing on stocks and then bonds and then CDs and then structured products and then annuities and like every type of investment vehicle that exists. So again, just a crazy concept to think that there should be a designation around one specific investment vehicle. Number 5 on this list is pretty different from certainly the 4 we've talked about so far, and probably different from the next 5 that we will cover. And that is that this thing to me looks to be extremely rigorous and for maybe like only the best of the best, or at least those that want to pursue becoming the best of the best in the finance field. But I had never heard of it before reviewing this list. And so maybe being too elite in the requirements that you have for a designation is just going to like block you out from the majority of the marketplace and make your designation non-existent, like I think this one actually is. And that would be the Chartered Financial Engineer, or CHFE designation. This is issued by the Financial Engineering Institute, which, like some of the other sponsoring organizations, I had never heard of. So reading a little bit about this Financial Engineering Institute looks a little bit like a fraternal society, a little bit like a cult, and a little bit like an elite group of financial geniuses all wrapped into one. And I have no experience with this organization, so I really can't tell you which one of those 3 categories it might fall into, but the requirements for this CHFE designation are just crazy. You need to have 10 years of financial planning experience in the industry, and this is by far and away the longest amount of time that I've ever seen as a requirement for a financial designation. You need to at least hold one of these existing designations like the CFA, the CFP, the CLU, the CPA, the JD, and so all of those on that list are already very difficult designations to earn. So we're talking about people who have already focused on education and earning some, what I would consider actually valuable letters after their name in this industry. It requires an interview process with the organization that you're trying to get this designation from. You have to do a 3-day in-person course before you can take the test to try to earn this designation. And then you have a proctored final certification exam, which used to be very common 20 years ago, but it's less and less common nowadays. I really don't know where you would go to take this exam. I couldn't figure that out on their website, but I imagine just based on the look and feel of this fraternal financial excellence community they're trying to build here, you might have to go to like some club meeting in Omaha, Nebraska and take this thing in an empty college classroom with 50 other CHFEs surrounding you. I don't know. So number 5, maybe a very legit designation, but unheard of and probably irrelevant. Number 5 on the list, now in the bottom half. I think I said number 5 on the last one. The last one, the CHFE, was number 6. But now to number 5 on the list, we have the FLMI designation, which is the Fellow of the Life Management Institute designation. What is being a fellow of this Life Management Institute, you might ask? It doesn't sound like it's related to personal finances or financial advising or investing at all. To me, it is listed on FINRA's website. The organization that issues this is called the LOMA, but when you go to the LOMA's website, you just see a headline that says the Alliance for Lifetime Income is going to merge LIMRA with LOMA. And I don't know what any of those 3 organizations have anything to do with financial planning. So the whole thing just seems like, a bunch of weird, maybe nonprofits kind of merging together and making up some other made up causes. And other than a few comments about achieving retirement security, I can't even figure out what this designation has to do with at all. Becoming a fellow for the Life Management Institute, it's just like, I don't know if we're life coaching, I don't know if we're managing retirement type investment accounts, I don't know if we're even a financial advisor, and you really can't learn anything from this website. I have no idea why FINRA would still have this on a list on their website as one of the recognized designations in the industry. At number 4, we have the MFP, the Master Financial Planner. And if you know nothing about the financial advising industry, this one sounds relatively straightforward. At least it's only 3 words. But anyone who knows about the industry has heard of the CFP, the Certified Financial Planner, which is the standard in financial advising. It's issued by the College for Financial Planning. It's generally considered to be the most robust, potentially most difficult financial planning focused designation. The CFP is big, right? It's valuable, it's marketable, clients are aware of what it is. Many advisors want to earn it. So to say you're the master of financial planning sounds like you're just trying to one up the CFP. And I've been in the industry 10 years. I had never heard of this before, again, before seeing this list. So they're certainly not doing a very good job at getting their name out there. And then it requires some prerequisites. And on that list is the ACBSP, the AACSB, or the CHEA as prerequisites. Never heard of any of those either. Well, you know, when you Google search these things, it seems like maybe they're a little more popular internationally than in the US, but still not used in any developed markets that I can read of anyway, not like Europe or Asia or Australia. So I have no idea what this Master of Financial Planning thing is even going for. It's a cheesy name. Nobody that I've ever heard of cares anything about it. Maybe the content's fine, but it really doesn't need to be its own designation. Number 3, we're getting into the top 3. And with number 3, I picked on one in particular, but actually I want to pick on a concept as a whole. And that is a concept of these very specialized, targeted designations. And the 2 most common areas where you see this are number 1 in student loan planning and number 2 in divorce planning. Now, I wouldn't pick on divorce planning because that is a relatively complicated subsector of financial planning. So if for some reason you wanted to market yourself as a divorce financial planner, or maybe you had a network of divorce attorneys who then would like send you referrals. There are a lot of things that go into divorce planning, and so there could be valuable information there. Student loan, on the other hand, is much more simple than divorce planning. I mean, there are a handful of elements that can go into how student loans are gonna work, but repaying student loans is not rocket science. And so when you look through this list of all the FINRA recognized designations, I think there were like 8 of them that were some version of something like certified or accredited, student loan, and then like repayer or expert or student loan planner. And it's just like, why do we need 8 or 9 designations all about student loans? So number 3, I picked on the SLRA, which is the Student Loan Repayment Advisor, which is its own designation, issued by Pay for Ed. Is just a company that can even issue student loans to or refinance existing student loans into new loans for borrowers. So this organization, Pay for Ed, said, hey, I know how we could probably try to make another 50 grand or 100 grand or maybe more than that in a year. Let's come up with a short 100 question designation and try to sell it to financial advisors out there who might think that having some other letters after their name is necessary, and create another one of these washed down student loan payment designations. Number 2, we have the RFG. And to me, those letters sounded pretty powerful on their own. RFG, that is the Registered Financial Gentrologist, which by itself, gentrology is like working with elderly people. So maybe there are some concepts that apply to elderly investors, that the CFP wouldn't have covered, which it will have covered everything. But hey, maybe there are some gentrology themes that we need to learn about. Well, when you look into this RFG designation and you look for, hey, who's the organization that puts on the course and lets you take their test, all you'll find is that the status can no longer be verified because the issuing organization appears to be defunct. To me, that sounds like they either went bankrupt or just closed their doors completely, but there is still a designation out there. I can't imagine that any financial advisors in the world who ever earned this RFG still put it after their name. I mean, what would you say if you had a client ask you a question about that? It's just such a made up thing. It's sad to me that our industry has all of these made up designations that have probably very little educational value, and they're just there for these companies to try to make $1,000 off people. RFG, we don't even know whoever issued the thing. This certainly feels like one of the worst examples of that. Number 1, the single stupidest financial designation that I think I was able to find is the DAE, the Diversified Advanced Education. And that's it. It is the Diversified Advanced Education. Usually, you have like an adverb, I think it would be in here, that, you know, planner or counselor or something that denotes that the person with this designation is an individual who can help you. The DAE is simply the Diversified Advanced Education. So, okay, great. What is this diversified and advanced education that we are going to be gathering by earning this designation and going through this program? So we look into the issuing organization for the DAE, and that is the International Association of Insurance Professionals, or the IAIP. So the Diversified Advanced Education is like all about insurance? Maybe so. When you look into what this International Association of Insurance Professionals offers in terms of other financial designations, we have the Certified Leadership Professional, CLP. We have the Advanced Certified Leadership Professional, ACLP. We have an Associate in Client Relations, ACR. We have the Certified Insurance Industry Professional, CIIP. And then at the bottom of the list, the Diversified Advanced Education, DAE. I really hope that you are picking up on the fact now that all of this stuff is just made up. They are literally probably two people sitting in a room going, hey, let's put together some more notes and call it a course and sell it to people. I mean, what is this stuff that we're talking about here? The only description that we get from this organization about the DAE is that the DAE will distinguish you from other insurance industry professionals. I guess you're distinguished and set apart because your education is so diversified and advanced now after taking this test. I later found out that this organization is headquartered not too far from where I live. So maybe one day, if I'm out in that direction, I'll just go to their address and stop in and ask someone at the front desk, like, why does your organization exist? And honestly, that would be a fair question for any of the organizations that we've mentioned that have put together this list of 10 designations. So I wanna say I hope nobody watching this video has any of these, but I kinda hope you do, because you can either prove me wrong and tell us about it in the comments, or you can say, yeah, I took that test, it was totally useless, and I've never met a client in my life who's ever cared about that test, which is probably what I imagine any honest person that has any of these designations would say. Let me know down below if I missed any other good ones that you've heard of or seen out there in the world, and who knows, maybe we need to talk about them in a separate video. But as always, thanks for watching.